Story 1. I've been working security at Adventure World Theme Park for just over 5 years. It's a pretty good gig, decent pay, benefits, and I get to spend most days outdoors. Sure, the summer heat can be brutal, and dealing with cranky tourists isn't always fun. But I've seen enough crazy situations that I've got stories for days. None, however, quite compare to what happened last month during the park's 30th anniversary celebration. It was a Saturday in July, peak season, with temperatures hitting 95 degrees by noon. The park was absolutely packed, lines for the most popular rides stretching to 2-hour waits. My post that day was near Tsunami Drop, our newest and most popular water coaster, with a 6-story vertical plunge that makes even grown men scream. Because of the special anniversary celebration, we had a VIP section set up for annual pass holders, contest winners, and social media influencers the park had invited. These VIPs got special wristbands and could bypass the regular lines, something that already had some regular guests grumbling as they watched people walk right past them. I was checking VIP wristbands at the special entrance when she appeared, a woman probably in her mid-50s, designer sunglasses perched on her head, wearing a sundress that was a bit too fancy for a theme park, and dragging along what looked like her teenage granddaughter who seemed to be dying of embarrassment. She approached me with the confidence of someone who expected to be recognized. "Woman. VIP entrance, right this way, sweetie." She tried to walk right past me, pulling the reluctant teenager with her. I stepped in front of them. "Excuse me, ma'am. I need to see your VIP wristband before you can enter." She looked at me like I just asked her to explain quantum physics. "Woman. Wristband. I don't need a wristband. I used to work here back in the 90s. I helped design some of these rides." I'd heard variations of this before. It's amazing how many former employees and ride designers show up when lines are long. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I still need to see a VIP wristband. If you're a former employee, you can check in at guest services, and they might be able to help you." The teenager tugged at the woman's arm. "Grandma, let's just go wait in the regular line. It's fine." The woman yanked her arm away. "It is most certainly not fine. Do you know how many hours I put into this place? I practically built it." For context, our park was built by a major entertainment corporation. Unless this woman was secretly a multimillionaire engineering executive, her claim was suspect at best. "Ma'am, I don't make the rules. Everyone needs a wristband for VIP access. The main entrance is just around that corner." I pointed to the regular line. Her face contorted into an expression of pure outrage. "Do you know who I am? I'm personal friends with the owner." Another red flag: our park is owned by shareholders. There is no single owner. "I'm sorry, but without a wristband, I can't let you through." I remained firm but polite, as we're trained to do. The teenager was now trying to disappear into her t-shirt. "Grandma, please, let's just go." "Woman, no, this is ridiculous, after everything I've contributed to this park." By now, actual VIP guests were backing up behind her, showing their wristbands and waiting to get in. I called for another security guard to come open a second entrance while I dealt with this situation. The woman noticed the other guest going in and her anger escalated. "Woman, so you'll let them in but not me? This is discrimination." "They have wristbands, ma'am." That's when she did something I never expected. She looked at the VIP entrance, then at the decorative rope fence separating it from the regular line, and made a split-second decision that would become legendary among park staff. She handed her purse to her mortified granddaughter and declared, "Fine, if they won't respect who I am, I'll just go in myself." Before I could react, she grabbed the rope fence and started to climb over it. Now, this wasn't a simple step-over barrier. It was a 4-foot decorative rope fence with posts designed to look like ship's masts, on theme with the water ride. I immediately radioed for backup. "Code 6 at Tsunami VIP entrance. Guest attempting to climb barrier." The woman was halfway over, her sundress hiked up inappropriately high, when my colleague arrived. Together, we hurried to either side of her. "Ma'am, You need to come down immediately. This is a safety violation. Woman, get your hands off me. I'm going in. She was hanging awkwardly, one leg over, when she lost her grip and started to slip. Instinctively, I reached out to prevent her from falling and grabbed her arm, helping her back to the ground on the non-VIP side. The moment her feet touched the ground, she yanked her arm away and screamed, "You assaulted me. Did everyone see that?" He grabbed me. Several guests had their phones out, recording the whole scene. My colleague, "Ma'am, we were preventing you from falling and injuring yourself. You were trespassing in a restricted area." Woman, "Look at my arm. You gave me rope burn. I'm going to sue this entire park." I glanced at her arm. There was a slight redness where she had been gripping the rope herself, but certainly nothing that could be attributed to my brief, protective contact. The teenager looked like she wanted the ground to open up and swallow her whole. Teenager, "Grandma, please. Can we just go home?" Woman, "Not until I get some justice. I want to speak to the park manager right now." By this point, our head of security had arrived with the guest relations manager. "Head of security, what seems to be the problem here?" The woman launched into a dramatic retelling, painting herself as the victim. According to her version, she was a VIP who had been disrespected, physically assaulted, and denied entry that she deserved. I explained what had actually happened, and my colleague confirmed my account. Several guests in line also volunteered that they had seen the whole thing and had videos. The guest relations manager, who had been with the park for over 20 years, studied the woman carefully. Guest relations manager, "Ma'am, you said you worked here in the 90s. What was your position?" Woman, "I was a senior creative director. I designed the original water slides." The manager nodded slowly. "That's interesting, because I've been here since 1992, and I don't recall ever meeting you. What was your name again?" The woman hesitated, just for a second. "Karen Johnson. I worked directly with the owner." Guest relations manager, "I see. Would you mind coming with me to our office to sort this out? We can check our employee records." Woman, "I don't have time for that. My granddaughter wants to ride this ride now. We've been waiting all day." Teenager, "No, we haven't. We just got here 20 minutes ago." The woman shot her granddaughter a look that could have frozen lava. Head of security, "Ma'am, you have two options. You can come with us to discuss this matter privately, or we can have the police escort you from the premises for attempting to bypass security measures." Realizing she was cornered, she reluctantly agreed to go to the office, dramatically rubbing her injured arm the entire way. Once in the office, the truth came out quickly. Not only had she never worked at the park, but she had a history of complaints at our park and several others in the region. She had pulled similar stunts at least 3 other theme parks, even filing a lawsuit against one for alleged injuries sustained while trying to sneak into a VIP area. The head of security showed her the computer screen with her visitor history. Head of security, "Miss Johnson, or should I say Miss Williams, you've been flagged in our system for multiple incidents. You were warned last summer about cutting lines at Tornado Twist." The woman's face went from indignant to panicked in seconds. The security team made the decision to escort her from the park, refunding her ticket, but also informing her that she was now permanently banned from Adventure World and all affiliated parks. As a goodwill gesture, they offered her granddaughter a VIP wristband so she could stay and enjoy the park with another guardian. The teenager, however, chose to leave with her grandmother, mouthing, "I'm so sorry" to us as they walked out. The aftermath was even more satisfying. Despite her threats, she never filed a lawsuit, probably because multiple guests had uploaded videos of her climbing escapade to social media, where they quickly went viral. One was even featured on a theme park fails compilation that got millions of views. 2 weeks later, I received a thank you card signed by the entire team. Turns out, the incident had given management the final evidence they needed to implement a new identification system for problematic guests across all their properties. They credited me with handling the situation professionally and preserving both safety and dignity well. What little dignity the woman had left after trying to climb a fence in a sundress. Whenever I train new security staff now, I use this as my go-to example of why we follow protocol, no matter who someone claims to be. In the theme park world, we've learned the hard way, the people who shout loudest about being VIPs rarely are. Story 2. I've lived in my little duplex for almost 3 years now. It's nothing fancy, but it's in a nice neighborhood with tree-lined streets, and the rent is reasonable for this part of town. My landlord is a retired teacher who owns several properties in the area, including the other half of my duplex. She's always been fair and responsive whenever I've had issues. When I first moved in, the tenant next door was a quiet graduate student who I barely saw except for occasional waves as we collected our mail. But about 6 months ago, he finished his degree and moved across the country for a job. That's when Karen moved in. From day one, she made it clear that she considered herself the neighborhood watchdog. Within a week, she'd complained about my recycling bin being too full. It wasn't. Asked me to park my eyesore of a car, a perfectly normal Honda, around the corner so it wouldn't bring down property values, and left a passive-aggressive note when I had 2 friends over for dinner on a Friday night, claiming we were having a loud party. We were playing board games and drinking tea. I tried to be accommodating at first, thinking maybe she was just particular about her environment, but it soon became clear that nothing would satisfy her. My landlord started getting weekly calls about various imagined infractions, from the timing of my lawn mowing to the color of my curtains. Things came to a head last month when my landlord decided to try something new with the vacant house she owned 2 doors down. Instead of finding another long-term tenant, she decided to list it as an Airbnb vacation rental. She mentioned this to me in passing, asking if I'd mind occasionally helping to check that everything was in order between guests. I was happy to help since it meant a small discount on my rent. The first few groups of guests were no trouble at all. A retired couple visiting their grandchildren at the local university, a business traveler who was barely there, and a young family in town for a wedding. But Karen had been watching all this coming and going with increasing suspicion. One evening as I was walking my dog, Karen cornered me near the mailboxes. "Karen, do you know what's going on in that house? Different people every few days. This is a residential neighborhood, not a hotel district." Me? "Oh, the landlord is just renting it out as a vacation rental. It's all properly registered with the city." Karen: "Well, I don't approve. Who knows what kind of people are staying there? They could be criminals or illegal immigrants." I was taken aback by her immediate jump to xenophobia. Me: "They're just regular travelers. I've met most of them, and they've all been very nice." Karen: "Well, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the place. This neighborhood is going downhill." I should have recognized this as the warning sign it was, but I honestly thought she was just being her usual disagreeable self. A few days later, a new family checked into the Airbnb, a couple with 3 children who were in town for a week-long visit to explore our city's museums and attractions. They were from Mexico but lived in California. The husband was a software engineer working remotely during their stay, while the family enjoyed their vacation. They were possibly the quietest guests we'd had yet. I met them briefly when they arrived, helping them figure out the lockbox and giving them some recommendations for local restaurants. They were polite and grateful for the tips, and their kids were well behaved. I didn't think anything more of it until 2 days into their stay. I had just gotten home from work when I heard shouting outside. I looked out my window to see Karen standing on the Airbnb's front porch, pounding on the door and yelling. The father had opened the door slightly, but was clearly trying to prevent her from entering. I immediately went outside to see what was happening. "Karen, I know what you're doing in there. This is a party house, isn't it? I've seen people coming and going." The father: "Please leave us alone. We're just a family on vacation." Karen: "A likely story. I've heard the noise. I know you're running some kind of illegal operation." By this point, I had reached the porch. Me: "Karen, what are you doing? These are legitimate guests renting the house. Karen, mind your own business. These people are illegals running a party house, and I'm going to prove it. Before anyone could react, she shoved past the father and forced her way into the house. From the doorway, I could see the rest of the family gathered in the living room, looking frightened. The mother was holding their youngest child while the other two children huddled behind her. There was a half-eaten dinner on the table and a children's movie paused on the TV. It was about as far from a party house as you could imagine. The father, "Please get out of our house. You're scaring my children." Karen began storming through the house, opening doors and looking in closets. "Karen, where are the drugs? Where's the alcohol? I know you're hiding things." The mother, "There is nothing to hide. We are a family on vacation." I had already called our landlord and was now calling the police. The father was trying to escort Karen out without physically touching her, which was proving difficult as she was adamant about investigating the property. When she couldn't find anything incriminating inside, she became even more agitated. "Karen, you've hidden everything because you knew I was coming. I've been watching you." Then, in a move that left everyone stunned, she grabbed a decorative paperweight from a side table and threw it through the front window, shattering the glass. "Karen, there. Now the police will have to come, and they'll search the place properly." The father, "Are you crazy? You just broke our window. My children could have been hurt." Within minutes, police sirens could be heard approaching. 2 officers arrived, and the scene they encountered was chaotic. Broken glass all over the porch and living room, 3 terrified children, parents trying to calm them, and Karen still ranting about illegals and party houses. "Officer, everyone needs to calm down. What's happening here?" Karen immediately launched into her version of events, claiming she had evidence of illegal activities and was making a citizen's arrest. The family, still shocked, tried to explain that they were simply vacation renters being harassed by a neighbor. I stepped in to provide context. "Me, officer, I can verify that this family are legitimate Airbnb guests. I help the property owner manage the rentals. This woman is my neighbor who broke in and vandalized the property because of her unfounded suspicions." The officers separated everyone for individual statements. I showed them the Airbnb listing on my phone and the landlord's text confirming the current guests. The family showed their booking confirmation and identification. Meanwhile, Karen continued to make wild accusations without any evidence. After reviewing the situation, the police made their decision. "Officer, ma'am, you've illegally entered a property that isn't yours and caused damage. These people are legal residents with a valid short-term rental agreement. We're placing you under arrest for breaking and entering, vandalism, and possible hate crime charges pending further investigation." Karen, "What? This is outrageous. I was protecting the neighborhood. You should be arresting them." "Officer, you have the right to remain silent." As the officers handcuffed Karen and led her to the patrol car, she continued shouting about how she was being persecuted for doing the right thing. My landlord arrived just as Karen was being placed in the police car. After making sure the family was okay and arranging for emergency glass repair, she turned to me with a look of determination. "Landlord, I've had enough of her complaints, but this crosses every line. I'm starting eviction proceedings tomorrow morning." The next few days were a flurry of activity. Karen was released on bail, but ordered to stay away from the Airbnb property and its occupants. My landlord immediately filed for eviction based on Karen's criminal activity, harassment of neighbors, and violation of multiple lease terms. To everyone's surprise, Karen's husband showed up 2 days later to pack up their belongings. He seemed embarrassed and apologetic. "Husband, I'm sorry about all this. She's been having episodes and refusing to take her medication. I've been trying to get her help, but she won't listen to me." While I felt a twinge of sympathy for her situation, it didn't excuse her behavior or the trauma she'd caused that family. The family decided not to press additional charges after learning about Karen's mental health issues, but they did accept the landlord's offer of a full refund plus compensation for their disrupted vacation. They moved to a hotel for the remainder of their stay. Karen pled guilty to reduced charges of criminal trespass and vandalism, receiving probation with mandatory mental health treatment. The hate crime investigation was eventually dropped as part of her plea deal. As for the duplex, my landlord found a new tenant for Karen's unit, a retired librarian who brings me homemade cookies and compliments my garden. The Airbnb continues to operate successfully, now with additional security cameras and a more thorough neighbor notification system. Sometimes I see Karen and her husband around town. She's not allowed within 500 feet of either property as part of her probation. From what I've heard through neighborhood gossip, she's finally getting the help she needs and has become significantly less confrontational. The incident became something of a local legend, especially in the short-term rental community. My landlord used it as a case study when talking to other property owners about the importance of properly vetting tenants and maintaining good neighborhood relations. For me, it was a stark reminder that prejudice and paranoia can lead people to see threats where none exist, and that jumping to conclusions can have serious real-world consequences. Every time I welcome new guests to the Airbnb, I make a point of introducing them to the neighbors and fostering a sense of community, even if it's just for a few days. It's the best antidote I know to the kind of suspicion that consumed Karen. Story 3. I never thought I'd become internet famous because of my farmer's market stall, but life is full of surprises. 3 years ago, I quit my office job to follow my passion for baking. The corporate world had drained my soul for too long, and I couldn't take another day of fluorescent lighting and passive-aggressive emails. My grandmother had taught me how to bake when I was just a kid. We spent countless weekends mixing dough and decorating cookies. When she passed away, she left me her recipe book filled with handwritten notes and family secrets. Those recipes became my escape during stressful work weeks, and eventually, my ticket to freedom. Starting a small bakery business wasn't easy. I converted half my apartment into a baking space, woke up at 4 a.m. to prepare fresh goods, and spent my weekends at the local farmer's market. The first few months were tough, barely breaking even, questioning my decision, and missing the security of a regular paycheck. But slowly, I built a loyal customer base who appreciated my traditional recipes with modern twists. That's how I ended up with a regular stall at the Sunday farmers market downtown. My neighbors were other small business owners, the fruit lady who grew everything herself on a small farm outside town, the cheese guy who made the most amazing goat cheese, and the coffee roaster whose espresso kept us all functioning during the early morning setup. We formed a tight community, helping each other out and watching each other's stalls during bathroom breaks. That's why when the incident happened, it wasn't just about me, it was about all of us. It was a busy Sunday morning in early summer. The market was packed with people enjoying the perfect weather, and my cinnamon rolls had already sold out. I was rearranging my display of lemon bars when I noticed her. A woman in her mid-40s with an expensive-looking handbag and oversized sunglasses was moving systematically from stall to stall. At first, I didn't think much of it, just another customer browsing around. But then I noticed something odd. She wasn't just looking, she was eating. A lot. At the fruit stall, she picked up a strawberry and popped it in her mouth. Then another, and another. The fruit lady was busy with other customers and didn't notice. The woman then moved to the cheese stall, sampling multiple pieces without buying anything. By the time she reached my stall, she had a small basket filled with various items from around the market, none of which seemed to be paid for. I watched as she approached my display of mini fruit tarts. Me, hi there. Can I help you find something specific today? She barely glanced at me, picking up one of my apple turnovers. Woman, I need to try this. Quality check. She took a big bite before I could respond, then made an exaggerated thinking face. Woman, not bad. The cinnamon is a bit overpowering though. Let me try something else. I stood there shocked as she reached for a lemon bar. Me, excuse me, but those aren't free samples. If you'd like to try something, I can cut you a small piece, but… Woman, don't you know who I am? I run a very influential food blog. I'm doing you a favor by featuring your products." She said this loudly enough that a few nearby customers turned to look. I felt my face getting hot. I'm sorry, but I don't give away full-sized items as samples, even for reviews. Each item represents my time, ingredients, and whatever. I'm quality inspecting for my followers. They trust my opinion on where to spend their money. She took a bite of the lemon bar, then made a face. Too sour. You should really adjust your recipe. By this point, I noticed my neighboring vendors watching the interaction. The fruit lady had realized what was happening and was checking her display with a frown. You need to pay for those items you've been collecting from all the stalls." The woman looked at her basket as if surprised it was there. These? They're just samples. Everyone knows food bloggers get free samples. It's how this works. Free advertising. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. That's not how the farmer's market works. We're all small business owners here. Those aren't sample sizes you're taking. She rolled her eyes dramatically and reached for another one of my cookies. That's when I gently placed my hand over my display case. Please don't touch anything else unless you intend to purchase it." How dare you? Do you know how many followers I have? I can make or break businesses like yours with one post. The people around us had grown quiet, watching the scene unfold. I noticed the coffee vendor a few stalls down had his phone out, pointed in our direction. I'd be happy to set up a proper tasting sometime for your blog. But right now, you need to pay for what you've already taken from me and the other vendors. This is ridiculous. I'm doing you all a favor. My followers are always looking for new places to try. The fruit lady had come over now, standing beside me. "Fruit lady, you took almost a pound of my premium berries. That's $15. They were samples, for my blog. Cheese guy, and about $20 worth of artisanal cheese from my stall." The woman looked around, suddenly realizing she was surrounded by unhappy vendors and curious onlookers. "Market manager, what seems to be the problem here?" I hadn't noticed the market manager approaching. He was a retired teacher who volunteered to organize the market and keep things running smoothly. This customer has been taking items from multiple vendors, claiming they're free samples for her food blog. The woman straightened her posture, switching to a more professional tone. I'm a food blogger with a significant following. I was sampling items to feature in my upcoming post about this market. Market manager, do you have a business card? Which blog do you write for? The woman fumbled in her purse. I seem to have left my cards at home, but my blog is called Taste of the City. Very exclusive. Invitation-only readership. The coffee vendor had walked over now, still holding his phone. Coffee vendor. Funny, I can't find any food blog with that name. But I did get your whole sampling spree on video. Been filming for my business TikTok account. Already got 200 views in the last 5 minutes. He turned his phone around, showing a live TikTok stream with comments rapidly appearing. The woman's face went pale, then quickly turned red. You can't film me without permission. That's illegal. Market manager, actually, this is a public space. Now, you have 2 options. Pay for everything you've taken, or I call the police for theft. The woman looked around, seeming to finally realize the situation she was in. Without another word, she dug into her purse and pulled out her wallet. Fine. But none of you will be featured in my blog now. She slapped down some cash on my table enough to cover what she'd taken from all of us, though barely. Then she stormed off, leaving her half-eaten samples behind. We all looked at each other, then burst into laughter once she was out of earshot. Coffee vendor. Guys, this video is blowing up. Over 1,000 views now. By the next day, the video had over 1 million views. People started calling her Farmer's Market Karen, and the incident became a local legend. Even better, supporters started showing up specifically to visit the stalls that had been targeted. The following Sunday, the woman tried to return, wearing a hat and different sunglasses as a disguise. But the market manager spotted her immediately. "Market manager, I'm sorry, but after last week's incident, you're no longer welcome at this market." "Woman, this is outrageous. You can't ban me." "Market manager, I absolutely can. We have a zero-tolerance policy for theft." Several people nearby recognized her from the viral video and started taking pictures. Realizing she was making things worse for herself, she turned and left. My little bakery stall got so much business from the incident that I was able to rent a small commercial kitchen space the following month. Sometimes I wonder if I should send her a thank you note, but I think knowing her free samples scheme cost her access to the best farmers market in town is satisfaction enough. Story 4. I've worked as a nurse in the emergency room for 7 years, so I've seen people at their worst and their most vulnerable. I've treated everything from heart attacks to stubbed toes, and I've developed a pretty good sense for when someone is genuinely in distress versus when they're exaggerating for attention or medication. But I never expected those skills to come in handy at the Department of Motor Vehicles. My license was set to expire on my birthday, which was only 3 days away. Between working night shifts and taking care of my elderly father, I'd put off renewing it until the last possible moment. So there I was, on my only day off that week, standing in a line that wrapped around the inside of the DMV building and extended out the door. I'd been waiting for about 45 minutes and had moved forward maybe 10 feet. According to my calculations, I was looking at another 2 hours minimum before reaching the counter. The atmosphere was what you'd expect, everyone looking at their phones, sighing heavily, and occasionally complaining to whoever was unlucky enough to be standing next to them. I was scrolling through social media when a commotion near the front doors caught everyone's attention. A woman had just entered, took one look at the line, and loudly exclaimed, "Karen, you have got to be kidding me." She was dressed in designer clothes that seemed out of place for a trip to the DMV, with oversized sunglasses perched on her head and a giant purse dangling from her arm. She marched past the line to peer toward the front, then walked back, scanning all of us as if looking for something. Several people grumbled as she paced alongside the line, clearly not pleased with what she saw. Then, to everyone's surprise, she approached the security guard stationed near the entrance. "Karen, excuse me, is there any way to get expedited service? I have an important meeting in an hour." Security guard, "Sorry, ma'am. Everyone has to wait their turn unless you have a documented disability that qualifies for accommodation." "Karen, but this is ridiculous. I can't possibly wait this long. Don't you have some sort of priority service?" Security guard, "No, ma'am. The line is the line." She huffed dramatically and walked away, pulling out her phone and seemingly making a call. I resumed scrolling through my feed, but kept an eye on her. Something about her behavior was setting off my difficult patient alarm bells. After a few minutes of animated phone conversation that everyone could hear snippets of, "No, you don't understand how long this line is," she put her phone away and stared at the line again. Then, she did something I couldn't believe. She walked to a spot about 10 people ahead of me, clutched her chest dramatically, and crumpled to the floor with a loud groan. "Karen, oh my, I can't. I feel. Help." The reaction was immediate. People backed away to give her space, and a few concerned citizens knelt beside her. The security guard rushed over, speaking into his radio. I hesitated for a moment. I was off duty, and the last thing I wanted was to get involved with a medical situation on my day off. But my conscience won out, and I approached the growing circle around her. Excuse me, I'm a nurse. Let me through, please." The small crowd parted. The woman was lying on her back, eyes closed, one hand still clutching her chest, the other draped dramatically across her forehead. A quick glance told me several things. Her color was normal, her breathing was regular, and there was no sweat on her brow, all unusual for someone who had just collapsed from a cardiac event. I knelt beside her and took her wrist, checking her pulse. Ma'am, can you hear me? She moaned softly, her eyelids fluttering but remaining closed. Karen, so dizzy, chest pain. Her pulse was steady and strong at 72 beats per minute, textbook normal. I noticed she was peeking through barely opened eyes at the commotion around her. I'm going to check a few things, okay? I did a quick assessment while we waited for the paramedics the security guard had called. Her pulse remained normal, her breathing was steady, and when I checked her pupils, which required her to finally open her eyes, they were equal and reactive. Most tellingly, she kept adjusting her position to appear more comfortable, something people in genuine distress rarely do. The DMV supervisor had arrived by this point. "Supervisor, we've called an ambulance. Is there anything we can do while we wait?" Before I could respond, the woman spoke up, her voice suddenly stronger. "Karen, maybe. If I could just get my license renewed quickly. I think I'd feel better knowing it's taken care of. Before I go to the hospital." That confirmed my suspicions. I stood up and stepped aside with the supervisor and security guard. I believe this woman is faking her symptoms." "Security guard, are you sure?" Her vital signs are completely normal. She has no clinical indications of any cardiac event or fainting episode. Based on my professional experience, she's putting on a show to cut the line." The supervisor looked skeptical. "Supervisor, but why would anyone fake a medical emergency just to renew a license?" As if to answer the question, the woman had now propped herself up on her elbows and was addressing the crowd. "Karen, I just feel so terrible about disrupting everyone's day. Maybe if they could quickly process my simple license renewal, I could get out of everyone's way." A man in line called out. "Man, lady, we've all been waiting for hours. You don't get to cut because you put on a show." Others murmured in agreement, and I saw several people holding up their phones, recording the scene. The woman noticed this too, and suddenly became more dramatic, clutching her chest again. "Karen, the pain, it's coming back." I'd had enough. I approached her again, this time addressing her loudly enough for everyone to hear. Ma'am, as a medical professional, I need to inform you that faking a medical emergency is not only unethical but potentially illegal if emergency services are dispatched unnecessarily. Your vital signs are completely normal, and you've shown no clinical signs of any actual distress. Her eyes widened, then narrowed as she glared at me. "Karen, how dare you? You're not my doctor. You don't know what I'm feeling." You're right, I don't know what you're feeling. But I do know that your pulse, breathing, pupil response, and skin color all indicate you're medically stable. Those are objective measurements, not opinions." The crowd had grown silent, watching this confrontation unfold. Several more phones were out now, recording everything. The woman seemed to realize she was losing control of the situation. She suddenly sat up fully, her weakness apparently gone. "Karen, this is outrageous. I'm being harassed when I'm clearly unwell." Just then, 2 paramedics entered the building with their equipment. The supervisor quickly intercepted them and explained the situation, gesturing toward me as the healthcare provider already on scene. One of the paramedics approached and introduced himself, and I gave him a quick rundown of my assessment. The woman, seeing the paramedics talking to me instead of rushing to her side, abruptly stood up, all pretense of illness gone. "Karen, you know what? I suddenly feel much better. I don't need medical attention after all." Paramedic: "Ma'am, if you reported chest pain, we still need to assess you." Karen: "I said I'm fine now. It must have been indigestion." She tried to walk toward the DMV counter, but the security guard blocked her path. Security guard: "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." Karen: "What? Why? I have every right to be here. I need to renew my license." Supervisor: "You can return another day. Right now, you're creating a disturbance." Her face turned red with anger. Karen: "This is discrimination. I'm going to sue this entire department. Who's your manager?" Security guard: "Ma'am, either you leave voluntarily, or I'll have to escort you out." For a moment, it seemed like she might continue arguing, but the sight of nearly everyone in line recording her with their phones finally seemed to register. With a final glare in my direction, she grabbed her purse and stormed out, shouting, "Karen, you'll be hearing from my lawyer, all of you." The entire DMV broke into applause as she left. The supervisor thanked me, and the line resumed its glacial pace forward. By the time I finally reached the counter 2 hours later, several people had shown me that clips of the incident were already being shared on social media, with the hashtag #DMVDiva quickly gaining traction. The next day at work, 3 different patients mentioned they recognized me from TikTok, where the video had apparently gone viral. Over the following week, the woman became something of a local legend, with various people sharing stories of encountering the now infamous DMV diva at other businesses around town. As for me, I got my license renewed with just 1 day to spare, and the DMV supervisor told me that if I ever needed to come back, I should mention the incident, not to cut the line, of course, but because they'd added her photo to their wall of customers who require a manager's presence. Sometimes justice comes in small forms, but it's satisfying nonetheless.